Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Ampt Live. I am going to fix my focus here because I keep on doing this where I go out of focus. So, I'm Jeremy Daly. I'm the CEO and co-founder here at Ampt, and today I wanted to do something a little different, show more of a use case that is probably a popular use case that people have to do. So let's get into it. So first of all, if you're not familiar with Ampt, and by the way, please feel free to comment and jump in on the discussion here if you have any questions. If you're not familiar with Ampt, essentially Ampt is a developer tool that makes it really, really simple, straightforward for developers to go ahead and code an application in JavaScript or TypeScript and then get that deployed onto AWS. And basically the way that we do it is we create these environments on AWS, completely isolated, automatic for you, that are pre-configured with a bunch of resources that you would normally use. If you were building an application yourself and you had to do all that configuration, uses all the latest and greatest serverless technologies like Lambda and DynamoDB and SQS and all these other things. And then essentially what it does is we deploy that into the environment and use your application code to configure the environment for you. So it is very, very straightforward to use. If you have any programming skills with JavaScript or TypeScript, very, very easy to build this, and we give you a bunch of really cool features built in. So anyways, let's jump into it. So what we want to build today is basically a data enhancement or an enrichment pipeline. So the idea behind that is going to be that you're going to get some sort of data in from your, from the outside world, right? So maybe that is somebody submitting something on the website. Maybe that's picking up, some telemetry from the website or something like that, like ClickOps type stuff. Maybe it is, reports coming in from an IoT device or, maybe a mobile app that's reporting information or something like that. So there's a lot of data that we get into our applications, and oftentimes we just get sort of bits of the data that we need. We don't necessarily get all the information that we want that it makes the data really, really useful to us, or allows other downstream systems to make those decisions. So what I thought would be kind of interesting is we're not going to build out a whole application with the front end and the back end and all this kind of stuff that's just take too long, but just to kind of sort of get the point across and see how we can take data, capture that data, and then enrich it for later use. I want to show you how we can do that pretty simply with Ampt and how quickly we can build that. So again, like I was saying, I think the idea here would be, let's assume maybe we have like a mobile app, maybe we do insurance, maybe we do some sort of reporting, whatever it is. But essentially what we want to do is we want to capture some sort of input from a mobile device, let's say, and then we want to take that information and we want to enrich it somehow so that we get more context around that, so that we can make better decisions, later on down the pipe. So let's jump into Ampt and just do this quickly and get a project set up. So essentially the way that Ampt works, if we click over to the docs here, you install the Ampt CLI, and then you just run Ampt. Pretty straightforward. You just authenticate your CLI against the account that you're logging into, and then you can build an app. So we'll just walk through it. It's a little bit easier to see when we do it that way. Okay, so I have Visual Studio Code open over here. I'm going to open up I'm going to open up the terminal here, and I'm going to make a new directory, and I'm just going to call this, let's call this Enrichment demo, like that, and then we'll cd into enrichment demo like that, and then I'm going to go ahead and open up the code window in this context. So as you can see here, we have no files yet. It's just an empty directory. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to run Ampt. Now I'm already logged into Ampt. Let's check the CLI for updates, which is kind of a nice feature. I'm just going to put this into my demo organization. Would I like to create a new app? Yes, I do. And then it's going to ask me what type of app I want to create. So you can create just a blank app. You can do this on your own, but we do give you a few starter templates, make things a little bit easier. So I'm going to use Hono. Again, I use Hono all the time now. I love Hono. It's such a great framework. So we're going to call this enrichment demo here. And I'll go ahead and do that. Would you like to create in the current directory? Yes, I do. And this is going to go ahead and generate some files for us. So you'll see over here that we get our node modules. Again, this is just a node This is straight Node 20, nothing fancy, about it. We do a couple of bits of, the runtime that it runs on behind the scenes. We do a little bit of patching, add a couple of capabilities to make things a little bit easier to work with. But for the most part, it's just anything you can do in Node 20, you can do here. You can also downgrade to Node 18 if you wanted to do something like that. But essentially, this created just a bunch of files for us. Most of these we don't need to worry about. Dev container and gitpod.yaml, those are just config files if you want to open this in a if you want to open in one of those services, dev container for Codespaces and Gitpod for Gitpod. And then you get an index file and your package.json file, and of course a README file here, and then our TS config. So this is going to be TypeScript. We can easily change to JavaScript if we want to, but this particular configuration or this particular template just starts with TypeScript. Okay, so quickly, just where we are here, we've got this URL that has popped up for us. So if we go ahead and open up this URL, this is going to give us a live sandbox in AWS. So this is actually running in AWS right now in our own isolated, dedicated account just for this developer sandbox for this particular app. So it's pretty cool how the isolation works. And just to show you how some of this stuff works in terms of how you actually can code and you can make changes, and then you can actually debug that, which is super helpful. If we go into the static folder here, this is a convention that we use. One of the only conventions that we use. Pretty much everything else you have full control over, but the idea behind the static folder is anything you put in the static folder, when this is deployed, this will actually push this into an S3 bucket for you. It'll all be routed via a CloudFront function at the edge that allows you to map static assets across dynamic endpoints and things like that. So if you wanted to have /image hono.png, that can load as a static image, but then you could also have, /image, / some dynamic route, and then if if it wasn't hono.png that was there to pick it up, it would go ahead and generate, it would fall through to the API to see if there was an API route, so that it could generate something dynamic there. So pretty cool. Got some good capabilities that you can do with that. But essentially what I want to do is I'm just going to delete this now because we don't need the static directory. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete this, move to trash. And you'll notice that as soon as I do that, it says last synced 1 second ago, and there was a little spinner there. So what happens is when I refresh this, now that's gone, right? It's removed those static assets for me. I can't see those anymore. And this is what is really, really cool about the way that Ampt works. So this is just the default file that we give you here. So you've got a Hono app new Hono. You've got this hello route. You got a get another post route, and then this app fire thing. So again, these routes are just demo routes. Don't need to have them, but they're just demo routes now. But you see that it created this /hello, or that /hello exists. So if I come over here and I type in /hello here and hit enter, I'm going to go ahead and get hello returned to me. Now this is where it's really, really cool. If I change this to hello from Ampt, exclamation point, I'm going to save this, and I want you to watch this little thunderbolt down there. So as soon as I hit Control S, that spins and it's done. And just like that, I refresh over here, and now I've got this live update that is happening. Again, this has pushed this to the cloud, so the feedback loop is very, very fast. And what else is cool here is that if I was to make some sort of mistake, so let's say I was to go ahead and add a variable that didn't exist, so I'll just type in test, I'll click save. So this isn't going to fail here because we haven't run it yet. But if I go to run this now, I'm going to get an internal server error, and I'm going to jump back here. And what I'm going to be able to see directly in these logs is I'm actually going to be able to see, oh, there's a reference error, test is not defined. It's going to tell me where it is on this index.ts on line, or actually, sorry, it'll come down here, but it'll tell me where, where this is within the, somewhere here, 83 somewhere, I don't know. Anyways, point is that you get the error message, so you can go ahead and jump in there and figure out what's wrong, and that all happens in real time. So we'll just go ahead and clear that out and then refresh this over here, and now we've got our app working again. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and just remove all this extra cruft for now. We'll get into the, if you're familiar with Hono or not familiar with Hono, you can take a look at that in the future. But what I want to do is I want to actually build an endpoint here that's going to accept, let's call it maybe an accident report or something like that. We'll make it a little bit easier. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change this into a post, and I'm going to change this to report like that, and then I'm just going to return back. Let's do JSON, and we will say message report received. Thank you, Copilot. Okay, so now we've just created a post route, right? So this route over here is going to give us a not found now. So I'm going to jump over to Postman here, and we'll get into the weather thing in a second because I want to show you that. But so essentially what we want to do is we want to post to /report here. So if you remember, we already opened the URL, but if I don't remember what the URL is, I can just type in URL, and this will give me the temporary URL that we're using here. So I will copy that, and I'll paste that in, and I will go to report, and then I'm going to do a post here like that. Now if I send this in, I should get message report received. Okay, so we haven't sent anything into it yet, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's create some sort of a report template that that we will use, or some sort of report schema that we will use, and then we'll take the next step once we collect it and start doing some enrichment. Okay, so we'll go back over here. And so let's go ahead and import or install Zod. So I'm going to use Zod. Again, just another application or another package that I absolutely love, Zod.dev. Essentially what this is type first schema validation for you with static type inference. So it's very cool because you can create these schemas that you can parse at runtime, but then you can also use them to generate your types for you, so you can use them at development time when you're actually trying to make sure your types work. So I installed Zod, and then what we'll do here is we will import Z from, whoops, if I can type, from Zod like that. And so now this gives us this Zod package. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create a schema. So I'm going to call this schema, and we're going to create a z.object. And you can look up how this works, but basically what it is you create by using the z dot syntax here, and it's got z.object, z.string, some of these other things. It gives you a whole bunch of information around, or it gives you a whole bunch of different types that you can define and a bunch of things you can do to parse them and the whole deal. So we do want to create a schema though, because we want to make sure that the information we get is correct. Okay, so the first thing we want to have is, okay, let's just do this. This is pulling from last. I think from my last video that I did. But so we want to pull in the person's name. Let's do that. Let's say that maybe they submit an account ID, something like that. We'll say that that's a string, part of the report. So we don't need a unique report ID or anything like that. We can generate that ourselves, but we do need to have what the actual description of the report was, or the, so let's just say description, and we'll say that that's, I did not spell description right. So we'll say description like that. So that'll be the description of the, maybe we'll call it detail. Description, why not? So we'll call it description. So that'll be the description of the accident and any information that they can give us about it. And then the other thing, severity, that's a good one. All right, so we can maybe have them rate the severity of the accident. Was it low, medium, or high? Again, the enums, this is very nice because it validates against, validates against this for real-time parsing when at runtime, and then also verifies against it as an enum if you were to export this as a type. Okay, so we got that, and then the last thing we want to do, I think, because some of the other stuff we will generate by ourselves, but one of the things we want here is we want the longitude, so we want the lat, z number, and the longitude z number. Now, I don't know, just out of curiosity, is there a latitude? Latitude and longitude is just the number. Okay, so I like this, how they actually put this in location. So let's do that. Just like that format a little bit better. So we'll do this as a location, will be another object, and under that there'll be a latitude and a longitude that will report as part of this. Okay. All right, so we've created this schema now, and now we need to submit. Now we want to go ahead and use this schema to test a couple of different things. So first of all, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we get an input from the actual post. So the way that we do that is we will go ahead and parse the body, and we parse the body by doing an await c.rec.json like that, which means we need to make this async. Okay. All right. So we now are parsing the body, and if we want, we can go ahead and just spit that body out here so that we can see that. So we'll get to the validation in a second. So let's go over here, and if we were to send here, we're going to get an error, and the reason why we're going to get this error is it's going to tell us that unexpected end of the JSON input. So what we want to do is we want to pull the JSON, but then we want to test if it is JSON. I guess we can just do a try catch there. I mean, we don't need to add too much right now. Let's just go into this and make sure we're sending in some JSON. So we'll send in some JSON like this, and I'll go ahead and send in, name equals John Doe, like that. All right, so if we send this in, we should get the message, report received, and the name John Doe. All right, so what we want to do now is we want to validate this. So this is straightforward with Zod, where what we're going to do is we're going to take the body in, and we're going to go ahead and, I guess we can call it result. We're going to do a schema safe parse against the body, and then what we can do here is show the result like this. I'm just going to clear this out so we don't see that error. And then I'll hit send. And what this will do is this will say the success was false. And then it's going to give us a whole list of reasons why. So there was no account ID. There was no description. There's no severity marked. And there's no location information that is there, right? So it gives us all those errors, which is great because we can format those and send them back to the user. If we're doing this through an app, we're probably going to validate something there first before somebody sends it, but you get the idea. Okay, so let's just fill in some of that other information so that we have it and see if we can pass our test here. So we're going to say John Doe. The other thing that we needed was, just quickly looking at it, so we need an account ID. So we'll say account ID is going to be, X123 GH12. I don't know what that means, but I'm going to put it in anyways. And then we need to have a description. So description, spell it right this time. And we'll just say car smashed into a stop sign or something like that. And then we need the severity. So severity like this. And then we want to mark that as what are the options? Medium. So let's say that's a medium accident. I spelled severity wrong, didn't I? Severity. Severity. And that looks right. Oh, I know why it's giving me that error because I didn't do that. So that's medium. And then the last thing we want to do is put in the location like this. And the location contains a latitude. Oops. And I'll get that number in a second, and a longitude. So longitude like this. Okay, so oops, don't want to do that. Okay, so now we have this information in here. We clearly spelled longitude wrong, so let's fix that like this, longitude, and we need a colon sign there as well. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and send this in, and this will process and be success as true. So we now have our name, account, description, and longitude, or latitude and longitude. So this latitude and longitude isn't gonna help us very much because it doesn't mean anything. So let's go look one up just so that we have it. So let's say latitude and longitude for, I don't know, where do you want to do? I don't want to do New York City. That just seems so cliche. Let's do Austin, Texas. How about that? All right, so Austin, Texas. Okay, so we have this, and we're gonna go ahead and paste this in as a number, like that. Oh, 130, that doesn't make sense. I'll fix that in a second. And 97. So this is 30 dot, okay, send that in. Test pass, looks good. Latitude, longitude. Okay, so this is going to be where our phone automatically sends in these GPS coordinates for us. So those will be generated from somewhere, whatever. Okay, so now we're getting this in. So let's go ahead and make sure. And again, if any of this is wrong, if this was longitude X, for example, and I tried sending this in, it's going to give me the fact that it's false. So let's put in a little bit of conditionals here, and we'll start by saying if result dot success. We're just going to gate this. So if it is an error, let's go ahead and return a message invalid report, and then the result dot errors with a 400. That actually looks right. That should be good for me. This is where it's nice when things like Copilot can speed up for us. So I hit send, and I'll get message invalid report, and then I'll go ahead and get the code, the expected, the received, the path, and the message. So we could clean this up a little bit. I'm not going to worry about that now. Again, we've got the error in, but I could go ahead and make better error messages if I wanted them. But I'm not going to worry about that now. Okay, so if it is not successful, then it will fail. Otherwise, it should send it in just fine. So we'll go ahead and hit send. Okay, so success, true, great. All right, so here's what we want to do now. We want to harden this data. So we want to make sure that we capture it so that we've got that durability and we don't have to worry about, you know, if we try to call another API or try to do something that's going to fail. So this is typically called the storage first pattern. If you're doing any sort of EDA type stuff, event-driven applications, this is a really, really good pattern whenever you're capturing data from outside of your system. And the reason is because you usually only get one shot for someone to submit that report. So if someone's submitting that report and it comes back and says, oh, error, and the reason why there's an error was because it couldn't, you know, look up something else or do something else or whatever, then that's not very good, right? Because then we're going to lose that and we're probably never going to get them to retry it. So let's just make sure that it's in the right format. Assuming it's in the right format, let's capture the data, and then we can do all of these other actions asynchronously after the fact. Okay, so we got to capture this data. The best way to do that in Ampt is to use Ampt data, which is a data module with Ampt that just basically wraps DynamoDB. You've got a default table with a bunch of cool features to do things like single table design or to do some queries and some other stuff that you can do. So we're going to go ahead and install @Ampt data like that. And then as soon as that's installed, we're going to go ahead and import it up top here. So import data from @Ampt. Oh, you think it would fill it in? It didn't. Okay, @Ampt data. Okay, perfect. So all the stuff, by the way, it's all documented, right? So if you want to go in and see how the data module works, you can come in and see essentially it is set to set stuff. It is get to get stuff. You can set complex maps or objects that you can set in there. There's a whole bunch of cool stuff you can do with defaults and all kinds of stuff. So check out Ampt data. But again, essentially it is just a wrapper on top of DynamoDB. It's all taken care of for you. Okay, so we now have a valid result that's coming back to us. And one of the things we can do as well, just if we wanted to work with, well, I think actually, yeah, so this already gives us, right? So this will already tell us that, you know, this is the type. So it's already given us that type, which is pretty cool that we already have that there. So if we did want to do something like result dot data like this, and then dot, you know, it should give us, oh, maybe it doesn't, is it data? Hold on, result. Save parts success. Oh, that's the success. Okay, so that actually, just with that, I think we can just do name. I don't know. Anyways, it's cool that you have the type there. I'm not a TypeScript expert. All right, so what we want to do is we've got this valid. So now if its success is true, we get back the data. We can see that we have the data here. and it comes back as result.data. So we get that result.data, and we want to go ahead and stick that into a database for us. So one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm also going to import, I'm going to install ULID here just so that we can have a unique ID being generated. And then I will import ULID from ULID here. So ULID is just a way to give us an ordered unique identifier. Some people like it, some people don't. I tend to like it. I think it's very useful, depending on what you're doing. Okay, so anyway, so we have everything we should need. So let's go ahead and just do an await data.set, and I'm going to actually capture this as db results here, and await.set. And then we want to go ahead and set this as something. Now, there's a couple of different ways that we can do this. We can use we could use some sort of a collection, which if we wanted to say like reports, colon, and then do something after the colon, then we could pull back everything by reports. We don't really necessarily need to do that right now because, again, the goal here is just to kind of capture it and put something in there. So I'm going to do reports, or actually we'll just call it a report. And then, I'm sorry, I just like... template literal is better. And then I'm going to generate a ULID for that report, and then I'm going to stick whatever we got in results.data in there. Okay, that's the first way that I could do that, but the problem with doing it this way is a couple things. The ULID gets generated here, results.data, so I'm going to actually do const, and I'm going to call this report ID, spell it right, and I'm going to generate the ULID here. And then that way I can stick report ID in the results itself. So we'll do report ID. So this is perfectly fine to do results.data, but I want to enrich this with a little bit more information. So I'm going to stick this here and do a ... do a spread operator so that I have that. All right, so now the other thing I want to have is the report ID. I want to make sure that I have that captured as part of my object. And again, this we're just sending in the object here. And then the other thing that I want to do is I want to go ahead and have submitted at, submitted whatever, new date, and we get that as well. Okay, so this is going to save this in the database for us and then spit back the DB result. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to say report, and I'm going to say that the report is the DB result so that we see that back. So I'm going to go now and jump back over to Postman, and I'm going to hit send, and this should send the request, and it says, if we look at the details here, hopefully this is big enough to see. So this is going to say, I think you can see this, the message report received, severity was medium, it was submitted at this particular date, here's your account ID that was submitted under, here's your unique report ID, here's the description and your name, and then the location of where the accident happened. So we're now collecting this, and this is being saved to the database. So if we go back to here, and we were to type open, this will go ahead and open the, this is the dashboard for Ampt, and so this is the sandbox that I'm working in now. If I was to deploy this to dev or to prod, I'd get other environments here. I'm just going to go in here, click on data, and make this a little bit bigger, and I will do get all items, and we'll see that we have this report here now. So this is showing me report pound with that ID. It's telling me the severity, when it was submitted, all this other stuff that is all there for me. Okay. So that's the first step, and we've collected this data now, and we've been able to return back to the app, hey, you've got your data, or we've captured your data, thank you for your report. The actual app itself can, format the response in terms of how we want to show that there. Okay, so what we want to be able to do though is we want to actually now do something as a result of this data being written. So I'm going to delete this item now just so that we can create some more of these and see what happens afterwards. And one of the features that Ampt has is something called data listeners. So I can go ahead and do data.on, and I want to every time something is created that starts with report, whoops, spell it right, report pound, I'm going to put a star after it. This is going to go ahead and give me a log that says a new report was created and give me that report. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and clear this out. I'll make this a little bigger so we can see it. I'm going to go over to Postman here, and I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so we can see this here. So I'm going to submit a new report. So go ahead and submit a report like that. So that report has been submitted, it's captured in the database, and then within a few seconds or so, I will get this new report created. And you'll see this is marked as a data change here. So this is essentially a log being generated from a data change handler. What we'll see here is that the name is created, which tells me that this is an item being created. You also get updated or deleted if you delete or update an item, assuming that you have your glob pattern matching that. And then it will tell me the item, which is the newest version of the item. So I have all this information, including my key, the value information, created, modified, and then a previous item in here, which is undefined because this was the first time this was created. But we've marked this as created, so we're only ever going to see the created piece of this. Okay, so what we can do now is, now that we have this happening asynchronously, we can actually do something with this data. Okay, so a couple things we could do. We don't have a lot of time, so we'll do the first part of it, which I think will be interesting, and then we'll see if we can squeeze in a bit of AI at the end of it and kind of play around with that. But so the first thing we want to do is we want to figure out what are the current weather conditions. So when somebody submitted this report, what's the weather in that particular area? Was it raining? Was it sunny? Was it cold? Was it warm? Whatever. So we want to get that information. So there's a couple things that we can do. So we could code that in here in this data change handler because we have all this information that we need. But the problem is it's going to be a little hard to test because we're going to have to go ahead and keep creating new items in order to get that data back. So I'm going to go ahead and just create another function here essentially, which again is just running inside my app, and I don't need to create this in the index.ts. I could create this in a separate directory, pull information in if I wanted to do it that way. So I have a bunch of capabilities where I can organize this and just think of it as like a monolithic TypeScript or JavaScript app. So I'll create a new one, and I'm gonna call this get weather. And then this is going to be an async. Oops, I could type async, and then we're going to pass in the location information. Let's see. So location is declared but never used, right? Because I'm in TypeScript and it's going to yell at me. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just call this get weather, and we'll say get the weather from the National Weather Service API. So we're going to pass in the location, and we can pass in the location that I always like sending things in as objects as opposed to using arity depending on what we're doing. For this type of thing, we'll send in a location object that will contain latitude and longitude, and then we'll process off of that. So I'm just going to go ahead and we will log out here, location, like that. Okay, so why is this? It has an any type, yes. Okay, so what we might be able to do, can we do this here? Can we do schema? All right, so I think we can do, just so that we don't have to do this as an any type, I'm going to show you how bad my TypeScript skills are. We want to do an infer type of, okay, so I think we can do this, and we'll do type, and we'll call this schema, z infer type of schema. Maybe we'll call this report. Like that. Okay, so now we should have this type report that we have. So then in location here, we should be able to say that this is a report dot location. Can we do that? Probably not, right? You can't do that. How do I do? Can I do type location equals report location? Oh, I think I could just, maybe I can just do this. Again, not a TypeScript guy. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, cool. All right, so we can do that, and then that way we have a type called report, and we can use some of the things from there. So this will tell me, so location is latitude number. Perfect. Okay, so that's our get weather thing. I don't really care what it returns right now, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new folder over here called scripts, and then in this script folder, I'm going to create a new file. And in this new file, I'm going to call this getweather.js, like that. And then I'm going to go back over to my index, and I'm going to export this here. Again, I could put this getWeather in some other thing, but I'm just going to make my life a little bit easier here. Go over to getWeather, and I am going to import getWeather from... I can just do this, right? And then I will do await get weather, and this is gonna have to be I gotta get some music playing or something in the background here. Okay, I'm gonna make this. Okay, save that. All right, so I'm just gonna make sure that I can do this, because if I do run, I think we added this support, but I'm just thinking maybe I didn't. Scripts/get weather dot, I called this .js, will that work? Maybe make this a TS. Okay, so unsupported. Okay. Dot. Oh, I did mean to do this. Index. All right. And this might yell at me because of top level awaits. I usually do this with JavaScript. Event listener is not defined. Oh, you know what it's going to be is because it's... All right, I'm going to do this then just to make it... we do want to do this, but I'm going to grab this here, get rid of that, hit save, and then I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call this getweather.ts here. And I'm going to paste this in like that, save that, and then I'm going to go into this getWeather, and I'm going to import getWeather from getWeather like that. So that should be the first part here, because we're importing too many things. Okay, so now that's going to work. Okay, so now I will get my latitude and longitude. This is going to yell at me because it doesn't want top level awaits. So the other thing I could just do is I could say, I guess you do what you do, like function run like this. Oops, and this. And then async, spell it right. Oops, that's not right, is it? Function run. Yeah, now my brain's working. All right, and then we run this here. Okay, that should work and give us no errors, and there we go. Okay, so now this is just spitting back the latitude and longitude, because in our get weather here, we are just logging this. We're not actually outputting what we're getting there. So if we did want to do this and say const weather like this, and then we wanted to log the weather down here like that, we can do that, clear, boom, bang, and now we get both. Okay, so this is the point of this, is that we're just trying to set up a testing workflow for us so that we can test this function without having to have it as part of our main application, or that we have to test the distributed system piece of it. Okay, so for the sake of time, the weather.gov capabilities are, or the API is just api.weather.gov. You send in a point with the latitude and longitude like this. It's just a get. So we should be able to now say, so this get weather is not where we want to make these changes. We want to go into this get weather here. This is types. So we're going to export this type. Oops. Type, and then we're going to import report from dot. That'll work. Boom. Look at that. Amazing. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to take the location here, and we want to actually pass this in to this here. So I'm going to say, let's say const weather, or let's say const, call this point, because the first thing we need to do is we need to grab the point. And this is just going to be in a wait, and we're going to fetch this here. And I'm going to use this so that it's a little bit cleaner, just like that. And then const point data await point like that. And we can log out the point data. So this is just simple fetch, right? And so we're going to take the location in. And so the location here is going to be, do this right, location dot latitude and location dot longitude, like that. Okay, so let's see if that works, and at least get our point data back. So we'll try this, clear, and run that script, and this will say data unavailable for requested point. And I think it is, because we're saying what, 97? Right? Is that right? I feel like it's minus 97. Minus 77. All right, let's go back here for a second. Latitude and longitude. OpenStreetMap Wiki. Let's make sure we got this right, because I think north, longitude, west. Oh, so I think we do need to do, because that's the latitude and longitude. So it's definitely, it's negative 97. It's got to be. Maybe we just entered that information wrong, because it's not. Yeah, okay, hold on. Go back here. And where are we sending it in here? Index, get weather scripts here. So let's try minus 97 and see if that does anything for us. Okay, run that script again, and here we go. Okay, good. All right, yeah, that's what it was. All right, not a big deal. Okay, so now we're gonna get this giant blob back. We get a context back. We get some information. We get some properties here, and that temperature is not actually true. So let's go ahead and just, so we don't confuse ourselves, we'll go ahead and I'll just return nothing for now. Okay. All right. So then we get back back a bunch of information, and one of the things that we need to do is we need to pull back the location. So we get the location, and that'll tell us where the nearest forecast station or the nearest observation station is. So hold on, let me clear this one more time so we don't get a bunch of extra stuff. Okay. So forecast zone. Relative, let's see, forecast office is here. So it's properties and forecast office. That's probably what we need. So we want to get that forecast office, and then I know it's kind of weird. I don't know if you can, we can get a forecast, but we don't want the forecast office. We want the current conditions, which means we need the observation station. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can remember how to do this, because it gets a little bit complex. So we grab the points, and then we want to get the observation stations, and Okay, so then we should, the observation station. So that should be what it is. Observation station. So we get the stations here. Yeah, okay. So I think this is what we want to do. So let's try it. So what we're going to do is we're going to say up here that from this points data, we want to get the observation stations URL. How about that? And that's going to be the point data observation stations. And then we want to make another fetch now to that. So if we look at this observation stations and we open this, oops, go back, make sure I'm on the right thing here. So we'll open the observation stations here. Then this will give us the features, and this will give us the first observation station, or all the different observation stations. So this one should be in order, I believe, would be the closest one. I think that's how it works, but whatever it is. So then this particular observation station, if you go, I don't think you need observations. Yeah, I think you have to go to /observations. And that will give us the different features here, which include things like the temperature, the wind, barometric pressure, precipitation in the last 3 hours, all kinds of wind chill, stuff like that, the heat index, right? So we get a whole bunch of information there. Okay, so we've got the observation stations URLs, and I think the next thing we have to do is fetch those URLs. So, and again, this is why, like, and I don't know if it's this complicated normally, but it's kind of nice to simulate. So we might have a whole bunch of stuff happening in the background. Like, these are a lot of things that have to happen, and if any of these fail, we certainly don't want these to fail during our actual, during when we're trying to save the data, right? And also it would take too long to save the data. All right, so let's go ahead and fetch the weather data from the observation stations. That's not 100% right, but we'll call this observation stations, and this will fetch that URL. And then we can say observation stations data is this, and then we can go ahead and load observation stations data like this. So now we can go ahead and see what we get back from that. So let's run the script again. So that made a couple of calls. It doesn't like an invalid URL. Failed to parse URL from undefined. Why? Observation stations URL. Let's make sure we get that back. Log observation stations URL. Let's go comment those out quickly. Script, and that is blank. So let's pull back the point data and see where exactly we're missing. So this is under, oh, properties. Okay, so let's assume that's going to work. Observation station URL. It's not where I want to be. Clear. Run that again. Okay, so that gives us that URL there, which is good. And then we don't need this. All right, so now we can actually fetch that URL and return the information for it. Let's try that. So this gives us back some pagination information, a whole bunch of information here, and we only want to get, let's see, feature. So we want to get the first one here, which should be ID 0. So we'll get that station. So now we should be able to say, let's make sure that this is right. It's a lot of information. So context, features, and we'll get the first station here. So we'll say const weather URL is going to be observation station data feature 0 .id, like that, and then that is going to be plus observations latest. Okay, let's see what that does. And then we're going to fetch the weather. like that, and we'll log it back out. The weather. Save. Okay, let's try this. Okay, so we run this script, hits a couple of things, bang, 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 and we need to, of course, actually do const weather data, right? Because we have to await that, save that, clear. Try it again. Okay, so now we get the wind chill, we get the relative humidity, we get the barometric pressure, we get all kinds of stuff here. So this, it looks like it comes back under properties. So we get elevations, we even know what the elevation is, we know what station is reporting it, when that was recorded, the raw message, text description, which tells us that the weather is clear, icon, we can get an icon, temperature, so we get it in degrees Celsius. So all of that stuff is coming right back from properties. Okay, so now we have a bunch of data that we can use to enrich the weather on the item that we have. So what we want to do is we want to spit back this weather data. So let's decide how we want to format this weather data. So let's not force it on, to get this back. Like we want to make sure this is consistent. So let's return back some information here. So we will return back an object that says, let's see, it's going to come back under, it's going to come back under properties, right? Okay, so from here we'll say, let's see, what do we want to do? So let's include the elevation. Right, and we'll want to say that the elevation is going to be weather data .properties.elevation, like that. Temperature is weather.data.properties.temperature. Of course, we could clean this up with less code. Let's just save that for now, and let's do the I'll call it conditions. And this is going to be weather.property.text description. And I spelled conditions wrong. Conditions. And we got wind direction. So much. We can include a lot in here. Wind speed, wind gusts, visibility. Actually, we just make sure that if we do temperature, let's see, temperature, we need dot value. Like that. Elevation, we would also need dot value, I believe, right? Elevation dot value, yeah, sorry. Value, the text description we get, so let's see, present weather is nothing, the temperature, we got wind direction, wind speed, barometric pressure, sea level, precipitation in the last hour. So let's call this precipitation, weather data dot last hour dot value. So we have that, and we don't care about the last 6 hours and so forth. I mean, we can, but heat index, cloud layers, okay, none of that I'm going to care about. All right, I'm going to save that. I'm going to get rid of this here, and I'm going to clear, and I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to somewhere here. I guess we didn't have that there. That's fine. Clear. All right, and then I'm going to run this. Okay, so we're going to get back a bunch of stuff we don't want still. So hold on, let's see where we're logging stuff out. So that we want to log out the weather there, that's fine. When we do get weather, we don't need to log this here. Get rid of some of these extra logs, blah, blah, blah. We don't need to log this anymore. And good. Okay, so that should give us all we need. Clear like this, maybe like that, and run that script. And we should just get back at that particular location. The elevation is 198 feet above sea level, whatever it is. Temperature is 27.8 degrees centigrade. Conditions are clear, and there was no precipitation in the last hour. So now we have this enrichment thing that we can use, and we can actually pull this in when we make these changes. So let's go over here, and we're going to import our get weather from .get weather so that we have that. And then when this happens here, it's going to create the report, and we're going to go ahead and do const weather equals await get weather report.location. This needs to be async like this. Report.location is saying property location does not exist on type previous entity because it does not. That is correct because we are on previous.item.location. And that's going to go ahead and give us the location information that we sent in. We, assumingly, could type this with report location. That doesn't seem to work. Probably because I'm doing something wrong, but that's all right. So, because I think I would, well, anyways. Okay, so that's going to give us back the weather there. And then what we can do is, because we have the item key, if you remember, actually, I'm going to go ahead and save this for a second. Let's submit another Postman request here, and let's correctly say, when we submit this, that the body, which we can't see, where to go? Body? Raw? What happened to our... Oh, that's the get. That's not where we want to be. Post. Here we go. Okay. This. We want to set this to -97, right? That's the longitude. And hit send. All right. So this will create that new message for us. And then over here, we should get this to spit back. Ooh, an application error. Cannot read properties of undefined reading latitude. Okay, so there's something going on there. But we get a new report created, which will tell us the name, the item, and then the key, right? So we need to use that key, item.key, which we'll do in a second, but we're gonna have to debug this other issue as well. Okay, so the report comes back. Let's just double check here. Oh, it's item, that's why, it's item.value.location. There we go. Okay, so we get item.value.location there. That will give us the weather back. And then what we want to do is we want to update this. So we're going to do const result is going to be await data.set. So we're going to set the same item that we're using right now. And to set this item, all we have to do is pass in the key. So we'll do report. This is tough to type. Report.item.key, which is the only thing that we need here. And then because these work as upserts, we can actually just insert in the weather like this into our record. And this will go ahead and update our record for us. And then we'll log this out just so that we can see it. And we'll call this weather data saved result like that. Okay, so we should now have all of this stuff happening for us when we create a new record. Okay, let's go back over to our apps here. In here, actually. Okay, so we've got a couple of these reports. I'm going to go ahead and delete these just so that they're out of our way. All right, and now let's go ahead and submit a new report from Postman, which again would be actually coming from, would actually be coming from our mobile app. So we submitted that, and if we go and we look at our real-time logs here, we should see in a second or so that a new report was created, smashed car into a stop sign, and that the weather data was saved, and we now have weather added to our report here. And so if we go into the database over here, we'll see that, we did something wrong here. What did we do? So this was report pound. Report pound. We created a new item somehow. Hold on, let me just make sure that that's weird. Okay, we did something wrong. Car smashed into a stop sign. This has our weather information, 198 and clear. P. Oh, these are two separate records. I'm going to delete this and see what we did here. Okay. So this should be a single record. Double check. So we're setting weather for this particular item. which should be right. Weather data saved. All right, let's try this one more time. I might have had a glitch somewhere in the system. So this should have created this record here, and it populated the weather. So, okay, I don't know where we glitched there, but something happened. But anyway, so now we have the weather in the system for us. Okay. We didn't get very far, but it's already been an hour, so we'll move on from here. But essentially, this should give you the basic idea of what you need to do. And what else is cool about this is, like, let's say that I just go ahead and add some, again, I'll add some random bit of, I won't do it there because that might fail the whole thing. But let's say I put in report, and then I would put in, test 1, 2, 3. Okay, so this is going to cause a runtime error, but this runtime error is happening in the background, and so it's going to retry this for me, right? So if I come over here now and I'm going to submit another weather report, let's just out of curiosity, let's grab some different location data. So let's say geolocation of San Diego. How about that? I cannot type today. Okay, so it's this here. So San Diego GPS coordinates. Here we go. So can I just get those in numbers? I just want those in numbers. Here we go, right there. Okay. So I want those two numbers, and I'm going to go back over to Postman, and I'm going to submit a new one, and these numbers are going to be, by 117, like that. I think that's valid. Okay, and then we're going to say, car skidded off road. And then this is Susan Smith or something like that. Okay, and account ID will be 123. None of this really matters, but anyway, so I'm submitting a different report here. I'm going to go ahead and send this, and you'll see that the report was successfully captured. I'm getting a reference error over here because that doesn't work. Now again, I'm simulating an error here, but let's say that it's the API for the get weather is failing or something like that. So what's nice though is that I have captured in my database over here. If I go and bring this up, I have captured this report from Susan Smith, right? And I've got the location. I don't have the weather information in here yet because that post-processing thing is failing. But if I go in here and I get rid of the error, and again, this would be, the API is finally running again. This does like an exponential back off, by the way, so this will, keep retrying, but it won't, just keep going and going and going. It'll start backing itself off. But essentially, this will keep retrying eventually. So if I come back over to my records here, and I click on this first one, car skidded off road, so there's still nothing yet. So we'll give it a couple of seconds here. This should all be fine. I'm just going to clear this out. So this will go ahead and reprocess that for us and take care of that. Now that should happen at some point. Usually happens pretty quickly when it fails. Still nothing yet. Oh, it's giving me an error still. Cannot undefined reading property of latitude. Oh, did I make a mistake when I submitted my latitude? Latitude. Is there like an extra? No, that should be working. Where's my error? This is happening, get weather, TS3, type error. Always love when you get these sort of things. Okay, so that is retrying, but it's failing for some reason. So this is telling me that it cannot read latitude. For some reason. which doesn't make a lot of sense. So what I'm going to do to try to debug this is I'm going to comment that out, but then I'm going to throw an error. Just call it that for now. Let's see if we can debug why the report is failing. It shouldn't be. It should be fine. I was just going to show you something quickly, and then that's how it always with the good old demo gods. All right, let's give this a second here. I don't think this was any different. All right, that's fine. It says an extra number there, but I don't think we cared about that, right? All right, give it a second to retry. Actually submit the same report again just because I want to try to speed this up. Okay, so this is saying weather fetching is not implemented yet. That's fine. Location, all right, that doesn't help us because I need to do .item.value. That, I'm gonna try this one more time, submit that. Latitude. All right, so let's do this. I'm wondering why that's not working, and I'm thinking that it could be. So let's let those process. All right, so those are processed. Should be fine. Latitude 37. Saying it doesn't fit the type though. So I don't know why I'm randomly getting a new error, but those should both be processed. So get those out of the way, and then we'll try this again. And just out of curiosity, I'm going to submit this with one less value at the end and try that and see if that works. All right, so that worked. So it must be that there was too many digits in the precision was off. But anyway, so basically, again, this grabbed it from another elevation of 9, temperature 21.7 degrees centigrade, no precipitation. It's currently cloudy in San Diego. That's crazy. And a car skidded off the road. So anyways, long story short, point is that if it fails, and again, it accepts it initially, so we just have to check the type, check the type there. But we would go ahead and get, so these are all the first ones that we submitted that were bogus. So we'll delete those. But now we have this report here with the information. And we could probably, we spit back the name of the city and all the other stuff. And of course, we could we could do this by zip code. There's a bunch of different ways we could do that. Anyways, all right, so that's it. So hopefully it was pretty straightforward. We could add as many steps as we wanted to there. There's other things we could do as well if we wanted to capture the fact that that actual, that the data change happened, but then we wanted to kick off a series of tasks. That's something that we could do as well, either using events or using tasks. We could run tasks. We could say, look, in an hour, we want to check something else. So a whole bunch of really cool things you can do. It's all in the docs. And there's no setup of AWS. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. So hopefully that makes sense. And try it out. It's free to start building. You can play around with some stuff, build some pretty cool things, and then it's pretty inexpensive for you to work on a side project or bring this into your organization and start doing some cool stuff. So until next time,